My name is George Anderson. I'm the leader of the Anderson clan. My wife passed away when our daughter, Natalie, was still very young. Since then, I've raised her on my own, never remarrying. Now, my daughter is getting married, but I've deliberately kept the fact that I'm the head of the Anderson clan from her fiancé's family. I figured it might be fine if the groom's side was higher in status, but if the bride's side was, it might make him feel uncomfortable as a son-in-law. And so, the wedding day has arrived. Natalie, you look beautiful. You've grown up so well. I'm sure your mother is smiling down on you from the other side. For many years, it was just the two of us, but now that chapter ends today. There were times when she had a fever, got injured, and of course, the teenage years were a challenge. But looking back now, those are all fond memories. Thank you, Dad. Even after I'm married, I'll always be your daughter. She's grown into such a kind young woman, but it wasn't solely my effort. Many of my men helped fill in the gaps where I fell short. I'm sorry for making you carry the burden of being the daughter of a mob. It's nothing like that. I love you, Dad, even as a mob. Besides, I ended up choosing someone from the mob world too. She's right. If possible, I would have preferred her to marry someone from a normal life, but the man Natalie chose is the son of the leader of the Johnson clan. Naturally, her fiancé, Samuel, is also a mob. Since I'm in this life myself, I couldn't exactly oppose it, so I accepted their marriage. Dad, the reception is about to start. Oh, right. I'll head to the venue now. Okay, thank you, Dad. With those words, Natalie waved to me with a small gesture. Our little girl has grown up so much. I always thought she'd be my little one, but somewhere along the way, she became an adult. It's strange, I should feel happy, but I can't help feeling a little lonely. Hannah. I wish you were here to celebrate with me. Hannah was my late wife. Last night, I spoke to her at the altar, but no matter how much I spoke, I knew she wouldn't answer. I had to endure the solitude on my own. When I entered the reception hall, the staff guided me to my seat among the family members. However, when I saw the name tag on the seat, even I hesitated to sit. The name tag read, Thug Dad. What is this? I could understand father or parent. Even just my name would have been fine. But Thug Dad? What could that possibly mean? I scanned the room and noticed the leader of the Johnson clan looking at me. Not only that, but he was smirking as he watched me. What is going on? It seemed he hadn't realized I was the head of the Anderson clan. He didn't even bother to bow or come greet me. Well, I suppose I don't look the part today. But this name tag, this is going too far. Before I could even consider sitting down, the lights dimmed, and music began to play. Then came the announcement, the bride and groom are entering. I had no choice but to sit in silence. Maybe I should just remove this tag. No, doing that would only give the Johnson leader more reason to mock me. Besides, if I get angry over something like this, Natalie will be the one who suffers. I stayed quiet and simply watched my daughter's entrance. As the bride and groom took their seats at the head table and the reception was about to begin, the Johnson leader stood and raised his voice. This is a celebration for mob only. He looked at me and laughed. So, this was planned all along. I didn't need to think too hard to understand what he meant. The words on my name tag were a message, you're not a real mob. In other words, a declaration that I should leave. But even then, I stayed silent. This was my daughter's wedding. Leaving was not an option. Hey! Natalie's dad. This is a mob-only wedding. We don't need a thug like you here, so get out. I glanced at Natalie. She looked confused, clearly unaware of what was happening. This was all orchestrated by the Johnson clan, and she had no part in it. What's this about calling him a thug? What does this mean? You'll see soon enough. Why are you still sitting there? Your daughter just married into the Johnson family. We don't need a thug like you as an in-law. Get out already. When I didn't move, the Johnson leader stormed over to my seat. Hey, didn't you hear me? Yes, your son is marrying my daughter, but skipping today's ceremony is not an option for me. You've got some nerve, talking back to me. I already know you're just a low-level thug. The Johnson clan doesn't need relatives like you. Is that so? My apologies. But I'm not leaving. You think that's wise? This is the Johnson clan, the real deal. And your daughter is marrying into our family. If you don't listen to us now, your daughter's life will be nothing but hardship. Samuel. What's going on here? Stop your father. It's fine. Your father is nothing but a thug, a disgrace to the Johnson clan. Forget about him. What are you talking about? He's my father. He raised me single-handedly and is the most important person in my life. How dare you tell me to forget him? You have me and my parents now. That's all you need. Just listen to us from now on. You promised to treat my father with respect. And you actually believe that? I'd respect a proper mob, sure. But there's no respect for a thug. Natalie tried to get her fiancé, Samuel, to intervene, but he refused to listen. No matter what was said, I kept my eyes closed and remained silent. If I spoke even a single word, the ceremony would fall into chaos. And if that happened, Natalie would be the one who suffered. Why are you being so cruel? Please stop. He's my father, and he's important to me. Natalie, you're a Johnson now. Just listen to me. My father wants a mob-only celebration, and that's how it's going to be. I can't just accept that. If I'd known this was going to happen, I wouldn't have agreed to this wedding. What are you saying? You love me, don't you? If you do, you should listen to your husband. I may have agreed to the ceremony, but we haven't filed the marriage papers yet. So we're not officially married. A ceremony makes us a married couple. We just swore to live as husband and wife moments ago. If you're serious about being my husband, then stop your father's outrageous behavior. Why are you letting him insult my dad? I can't accept someone as my husband who can't stand up to his own parents. What the hell? This was decided from the start. From the start? What do you mean? I mean, I never planned to have someone as lowly as your father involved in our celebration. Just having him at this reception is unacceptable to me. And going forward, I'll never recognize your father as part of my family. My parents are the only family we'll ever need. How can you say something like that? Just as I noticed a change in Natalie's expression, she stood up from her seat and stepped down from the head table. Natalie, what's wrong? Dad, let's go home. Go home? But the reception is still happening. It's fine. I had no idea these people were like this. There's no way I can stay with people who act like this and think it's okay. If they can't respect my father, there's no way I could ever respect theirs. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, Dad. You've done nothing wrong. Samuel is the one at fault here. Natalie. Get back here. The reception isn't over. I'm not going back. This marriage is over. We already had the wedding ceremony. That's all we've done, and now I know what kind of person you are. If we'd already registered the marriage, getting out of it would have been a nightmare. Thanks for showing your true colors at the reception. With that, Natalie grabbed my name tag, slammed it onto the floor, and stomped on it. Let's go, Dad. Despite having dreamed of this day, my daughter's decisiveness was impressive. I stood up and began walking with her toward the exit. A murmur spread through the guests. It wasn't a reaction to an unexpected turn of events, but rather the murmurs from the gangsters who saw my face. Moreover, all the attendees turned pale, whispering that something serious had happened. Yet, neither Samuel nor his father, the Johnson leader, seemed to notice. The Johnson leader shouted, "What an outrageous woman! Good riddance to her!" But Samuel descended from the head table and ran after Natalie. "Natalie, you're joking, right? We said we'd get married. That's why we had the ceremony. Why would you choose some thug dad over my father, who's so much more respectable? All you have to do is see my dad as your own. What are you saying? Who are you calling a thug? Don't mess with me. The Johnson clan isn't even that big, yet you act so high and mighty." I kept quiet because I thought I loved you, but in the end, you're just part of the Anderson clan's umbrella. Even if we are a branch now, we're going to grow bigger. Once I'm the leader, you'll be the wife of a boss. So what? I don't care about that at all. Then, Isaac, one of the executives standing at the entrance of the venue, approached us. Isaac is my close aide, a man who is always by my side no matter the circumstances. "Boss, are you leaving?" I nodded silently, and Isaac bowed deeply before glaring at Samuel. Seeing this, the Johnson leader's mouth fell open in shock. Until now, he had thought I was just a low-level thug. Seeing my lieutenant bow to me caught him completely off guard. But even so, the Johnson leader tried to save face. "So what if you've got a lieutenant? It's probably a tiny group anyway. Small fry always try to show off at events like this." Hearing this, Isaac's expression darkened, and he moved as if to confront the Johnson leader. However, it was clear that allowing it would cause Isaac's anger to explode. I tried to stop Isaac and leave the venue. But at that moment, Samuel shouted, "If you walk out now, it's over. Everyone will laugh at Natalie. She'll never get married again. You're already 28 if I don't marry you. No one else will." His words ignited my anger. I almost turned to glare at him, but before I could react, Natalie shouted back, "Marry someone who disrespects my dad? Don't be ridiculous. If I married you, I'd be the one laughed at. And for your information, I can get married if I want to. You, on the other hand, will probably never find anyone else. You poor thing. With your attitude about only respecting your own parents, no one will ever want to be with you. You'll be single for life, congratulations." With that, Natalie strode forward, ignoring Samuel's desperate attempts to call her back. Natalie had chosen to walk away from her wedding, even discarding her wedding dress, all for my sake. This made me wonder how she must be feeling inside. She must be devastated, I thought, but after some time staring out the window, Natalie suddenly shouted, "I mean, seriously, this is so frustrating." Then she turned to Isaac. "Hey, Isaac, what do you think? Can you believe I actually picked someone that rude? I'm so mad at myself." Can you believe it, Dad? They insulted you. They mocked the Anderson clan, acting high and mighty while being just a subordinate branch. There isn't a leader in this world as remarkable as you. And then, to top it off, they tell me to forget my father and revere that old Johnson as my parent? That's disgusting. The very thought of it makes my skin crawl. Isn't that right, Isaac? Absolutely, Natalie. You're spot on. If you had gone through with that marriage, even I would have been deeply disheartened. Exactly. It's absolutely outrageous. Mocking my father is unforgivable. Honestly, I wish I could have grabbed Samuel by the collar right there and stomped on him. And do you know what they wrote on your name tag, Dad? Thug Dad. Thug. As if that low-level mob, who can't even stand up to his own father, has any room to talk. And then he had the nerve to say I'd never find anyone else if I broke it off. Unbelievable. Isaac continued to nod and echo her words. Indeed, Natalie, you're absolutely right. Meanwhile, back at the reception hall, chaos had erupted. The attendees, having realized that I was the head of the Anderson clan, urged the Johnson leader to ensure the marriage wasn't called off for the sake of their organization's reputation. Although he found it hard to believe at first, he realized it would be a serious matter if true, and instructed Samuel to mend his relationship with Natalie. Receiving the instruction, Samuel thought that if that were the case, he would have to apologize and reconcile, even if it meant bowing his head. That night, Samuel decided to call Natalie in an attempt to patch things up. Natalie, you must be exhausted from today. Exhausted? Seriously? Why are you calling me? We're done, remember? Don't be like that. I was just nervous, that's all. Nervous? That's no excuse for saying you'd abandon my father. You don't have a shred of decency. I'm really sorry. I mean it. Even my dad regrets saying what he did. Please, let's make up. I want to marry you. Well, I don't want to marry you. You're joking, right? Not even close. By the way, is it true? Is your dad really the head of the Anderson clan? That's right. Why didn't you tell me? If I'd known, none of this would have happened. Because my father didn't want to hurt your pride. He thought you wouldn't want to marry someone from a more prominent family. Oh, that's what it was. If you think it's so intimidating, maybe you shouldn't have wanted to marry me in the first place. No, that's not it. I don't care if your family's more prestigious. So, you'd prefer it to be above yours? Well, yeah, I guess. But if you'd just told me. There was nothing to tell. Come on, Natalie. Let's not end things like this. You're already 28. If we break up now, you'll have a hard time finding someone else. Let's just sign the marriage papers and move on. Excuse me? You're worried about me being single? Well, don't be. I wouldn't marry you if you were the last man on earth. That's incredibly rude. Why are you mad? I'm offering to marry you. Oh, now that you know I'm from the main family, you're saying you'll marry me for the Johnson clan's benefit? And then you say you're offering to marry me? Maybe learn how to talk to people first. Not that it matters, I'd never marry you. Ever. With that, Natalie hung up the phone. The next day, the Johnson leader and Samuel showed up at the Anderson clan's office. Well, yesterday got a bit out of hand, didn't it? What brings you here? Let's not be so formal. The Johnson clan and the Anderson clan have a unique relationship, don't we? And what exactly do you mean by that? I'm talking about your daughter's marriage to my son. Natalie's already said she doesn't want to marry him. Well, sure, but she was still talking to Samuel last night. That means they can't completely let go of each other, right? Why don't we, as adults, support these two young people? I heard Samuel said something inappropriate again last night. I'm simply respecting Natalie's wishes. Respecting her wishes is important, but let's not forget that young people can be rash. Samuel is destined to lead the Johnson clan. Wouldn't it be better for Natalie to marry someone with such a promising future? She doesn't need to marry into your family. Come now, let's put the past behind us. If we forget everything and let them move forward as a couple, I'm sure things will work out just fine. Forget everything? That's right. We're the in-laws here, after all. Since she's marrying into our family, it's only natural for her to follow what we say. However, it seems she doesn't quite understand that. Perhaps it's because she's the daughter of the head of the main family. But I'm a broad-minded man. I've decided to completely forget about what happened and welcome Natalie into our family. I see, welcome her, huh? That's quite the generous offer, but I refuse. Why not? We're offering to take her as a bride. Let's not forget Natalie isn't getting any younger. At 28, she doesn't have much time to start a family. I'm saying this for her sake. She doesn't need your concern. I'll find someone better suited for her. It's always better for two people who are in love to be together, don't you think? That way, the relationship between the Anderson clan and the Johnson clan will remain stable, the Johnson leader argued. Johnson, are you misunderstanding something? Even if my daughter marries your son, the Anderson clan isn't selling out to the Johnson clan. I retorted sharply. Yes, of course. I didn't mean it like that. I just want the young couple to be happy. Johnson, take a good look around. Do you see the faces of my lieutenants? If you keep pushing your luck, you won't be leaving this office in one piece. The Johnson leader hesitated, glancing around to see my men glaring at him, their eyes full of barely restrained fury, as if ready to pounce at any moment. Oh, no need for hostility here. I'll be taking my leave now. But you know where to find me if you change your mind. We're always ready to welcome Natalie into our family. With those parting words, he quickly left. The door hadn't even closed before I barked, "Throw some salt at the door." After failing to bring down the daughter and unable to sway the father, Johnson decided to take a different approach. To that end, he gave some advice to his son, Samuel. Unaware of this scheme, Natalie, believing it to be an important discussion, went to the cafe where they had met many times for their dates. "What's this important thing you wanted to talk about?" Natalie asked coldly. "Don't be so harsh. We're engaged, aren't we? Talking like this will just ruin our relationship." "Oh, please." "Your father barged into my dad's office yesterday, saying he'd take me as my son's bride. Who would be happy about that? I'm sure my dad just really likes you. That's why he's so insistent that we get married. Let's make up, Natalie, for his sake. Think of it as being a good daughter-in-law." Good daughter-in-law? That's for your parents' sake, not mine. My father doesn't want any of this. Of course he does. Your dad must want us to marry. After all, you're almost past the age for marriage. 28 isn't old, and I'd rather take my time and avoid regret than rush into a mistake. Sure, but we've been in love for so long. We've shared so much, haven't we? It's disgusting to think about now. Honestly, it was all a mistake. You're saying being with me was a mistake? That's exactly what I'm saying. The wedding reception made that clear. So, is that your important talk? If so, we're done here. No, it's not just that. I brought this. Samuel pulled out a marriage registration form. Sign it. What? Why would I do that? Look, if you won't agree willingly, I'll have to force you. I can't let you back out of this marriage. Why are you so obsessed with this? I've already told you I'm not marrying you. Do you know how much we spent on the wedding reception? You're wasting all that money. Then bill my father. He'll handle it however he sees fit. That's not the point. Marriage would solve everything. Breaking up solves everything, too. No marriage needed. Why are you being so stubborn? Isn't it obvious? You disrespected my father. You mocked him, writing Thug Dad on his name tag and telling me to call your inferior father mine. You told me to accept only the Johnson leader as my father. It's disgusting. That's why I'm saying no. So you really won't marry me? That's right. I won't. Then I've got no choice. I'll force you to sign. Forcing me? Yeah. My dad said to do whatever it takes. Once you sign, the marriage is legal. I won't do it. I wouldn't marry you even if you were the last man on earth. Shut up. Marriage means obeying your husband. And I'm offering to marry you, so just sign already. Samuel forcibly tried to make her hold a pen and sign. She tried to resist and stop him, but he was a man, and his strength was overwhelming. There was no way she could win. She let out a scream and desperately called for help. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Isaac appeared, punching Samuel hard and sending him sprawling. You bastard! What do you think you're doing to Natalie? Isaac, why are you here? Natalie asked, both shocked and relieved. I heard you were going out and had a bad feeling, so I followed you. I hope I didn't overstep. No, you saved me. Thank you. Get out of here. Isaac growled at Samuel, dragging him outside. What happens next? Well, in the world of the mob, you don't need much imagination to guess. Natalie, quick on her feet, immediately grabbed her phone and called both me and the Johnson leader, asking us to come as soon as possible. When she stepped outside, she found exactly what she expected. Isaac was beating Samuel to a pulp. Please, stop. There's no need to hit me so much. Samuel pleaded. Shut up. If you don't want to get hit, hit me back. Hit back? I can't. Samuel, overwhelmed with fear, had wet himself. His pants were soaked, a clear sign of his humiliation. Pathetic, Natalie muttered. You talk so big, but you're absolutely worthless. I'm so glad I didn't marry someone like you. Samuel, now sobbing, begged for mercy. Please, forgive me. I was just doing what my dad told me. If you keep this up, my face will be ruined. I don't care what happens to your face. Samuel was on his knees, crying and pleading desperately. At that moment, I arrived with Johnson. What the hell is going on here? This guy called me out and tried to force me to sign the marriage registration. Luckily, Isaac showed up and stopped him. I see. So, Johnson, care to explain what this is all about? Well, I have no idea. My son must have done this on his own. That's a lie. You told me to force her to sign. You idiot. Don't say unnecessary things. Enough of this. I'm not giving my daughter to the likes of you. The Johnson clan is finished. Wait, boss. Please, anything but that. You can't disband us. Oh? So you don't want to disband? Of course not. Then here's what you'll do. Pay compensation for what your son tried to do to my daughter. Compensation? All right, if money will settle this, how much do you want? $10 million. 10 million? That's outrageous. It's not outrageous at all. 1 or 2 million would be easy for the Johnson clan, but 10 million? That's a challenge. And that's why it's 10 million. That's impossible. We can't afford that. Then you'll disband. All right. Fine, we'll pay it somehow. Pay it now. That's impossible. Then borrow it. Isn't that what loan sharks are for? Fine. Samuel, this is your mess. You'll borrow the 10 million and repay it. That's ridiculous, Dad. I was just doing what you told me. Why do I have to pay for it? Because I'm the leader, and I can't leave the clan's business. Stop with the family bickering. Both of you are responsible for this mess. Split it 5 million each. Borrow it and pay it back together. This is absurd. Johnson groaned. I've already called a loan shark to take you two to the survival game. Survival game? That's deadly. You tried to ruin my daughter's life. This is the least you deserve. Shortly after, the loan shark arrived and escorted them to their fate. Samuel, pathetic as ever, cried the entire way. Watching them leave, Natalie muttered, I'm so glad I didn't marry him. You're absolutely right, Natalie. But you really need to improve your taste in men, or this could happen again. True, but honestly, being 28 as a woman is stressful. If I wait too long, I'll risk a late pregnancy. I started feeling the pressure at 25. And now at 28, it's even worse. There's no need to rush. You're beautiful, kind, and thoughtful. The right person will come along. Wait. You think I'm beautiful? Of course. And kind? Absolutely. You're a wonderful person and the best daughter any father could ask for. I guarantee it. In that case, Isaac, why don't you marry me? Wait. Are you serious? Of course I am. What do you think, Dad? Love is the best foundation for a relationship, and yet Natalie had suddenly proposed such a bold idea. If it's Isaac, I have no complaints. Isaac initially looked troubled, but he didn't seem entirely displeased. After about a year of dating, they safely became a married couple and are now living with me. To top it off, we're expecting a grandchild next year, which is truly a blessing. My name is Travis. Until about a week ago, I was part of a gang organization. I was feared as a legendary gang, but now that I've turned 40, I decided it was time to stop messing around and return to my hometown to take care of my aging parents. Although I let my parents know I'd be coming back, I didn't tell them exactly when. They're going to be surprised for sure. Thinking about that, I waited for the rural bus I used to ride often as a kid. It's an hour by bus from here. We'd never see something like that in the city. Breathing in the fresh air, I boarded the approaching bus. Inside, there was a mother with a child and an elderly woman. This is a typical small town with a sparse population. After a while, the bus stopped and a man got on. Before the bus could even start moving, he pulled a beer can out of a plastic bag, popped it open, and started drinking it down. In no time, several cans were empty, and his body began swaying along with the motion of the bus. A child's voice broke the silence. Why is that man drinking so much on the bus? Shh, don't point at people. The mother said, seemingly wary of provoking the man, and hushed her child. However, their exchange was loud enough for the man to hear. Mom, you said we shouldn't eat snacks or drink juice on the bus, right? So why is that man drinking? And eating snacks too? He is special. But why is it okay for him? You always say it's not allowed. Well, he probably has his reasons. What reasons? The child persisted, as kids often do. The mother, clearly raising her child well and teaching them proper manners, was now at a loss for words. For a child who has been taught the rules and follows them, it must be confusing to see an adult breaking them and getting away with it. As the mother struggled to find an answer, the man stood up and walked over to the kid. Hey, kid. You've been noisy for a while now. I'm sorry. And you, if you're going to teach your kid not to eat or drink on the bus, you should teach them to keep quiet too. You're annoying everyone here. I'm sorry. The man shouts angrily at his shrinking mother. Even while shouting, he keeps a firm grip on his beer can, which is impressive in its own way. Honestly, you're raising your kid all wrong. Sure, don't eat or drink on the bus, that's your rule for your family. But I've got my own rules. Don't try to impose your stuff on me. That kind of misguided parenting is what makes life harder for everyone, you know? What an absurd argument. Drinking and eating strongly scented items on a bus could easily make others feel sick. The mother, seemingly unable to argue, simply kept apologizing. Well, she wouldn't be able to say anything. Just as I thought that, the elderly woman spoke up. You there, do you even understand that this bus is for everyone? Eating and drinking such strongly scented stuff here can make people nauseous. That's why you're not supposed to eat or drink on buses or trains. Didn't your parents teach you that? What did you just say? Do you really need a little kid to teach you some common sense? Just then, the driver slammed on the brakes. Apologies, a raccoon crossed in front of the bus, so I had to brake suddenly. Is everyone all right? Since I, the old lady, and the mother and child were all seated, none of us had any issues. Unfortunately for the man, he toppled over spectacularly and spilled beer all over his pants. It looked exactly like he had wet himself. Damn it! Cold as hell. What's this about a raccoon? You should have just run it over. Because of your stupid brakes, my pants are soaked. Please remain seated for your safety. Safety, my ass. If it's so dangerous, you wouldn't slam on the brakes, would you? I'm sorry, but even a raccoon's life is still a life. And what the hell does that matter? You could have just run the damn thing over. We'll be departing now, so please take a seat. The driver didn't seem to care much about the man's complaints. But the man had other ideas. That's because, when the driver turned around, he happened to see her face. It was a face so strikingly beautiful that it seemed impossible for someone like that to exist in such a remote area. I couldn't fathom why someone so gorgeous would be working as a bus driver in a place like this. Hey, lady driver. You're one hell of a looker, aren't you? Thank you. Please take a seat for your safety. You never know what might happen. Yeah, well, nothing would have happened if you hadn't slammed on the brakes. There are times I have to brake, so please stay seated. Why are you even doing a job like this? Hey! I'm talking to you, so answer me. I'm sorry, but I'm on duty right now, so I must decline any conversations. Come on, don't be like that. You're just driving, how hard can it be? I'm responsible for everyone's safety. If I get distracted, it could be dangerous, so please don't talk to me. You're way too uptight. How are you supposed to keep your customers happy like that? I'm sure they don't have a beautiful driver on board with the intention of pleasing customers. And it's true, talking to the driver could distract her. What a nuisance this guy is. Then, once again, the old lady spoke up. Hey, you there. Talking to the driver might distract her and cause an accident. So leave her alone, will you? Besides, standing there with that beer could make someone feel like they're drunk driving, even just from the smell. Drunk driving? How could that happen when I'm not the one driving, old hag? Don't talk nonsense. Some people can get dizzy just from the smell. Move away from there. I like this driver, old hag. So no, I'm staying right here. It's a miracle to see someone this beautiful in a town like this. A once-in-a-century event, I tell you. No way I'm letting this chance slip by. No matter how rare, you're getting in the way of her driving. Now move. Shut it, old hag. I hate being told what to do. Don't push your luck with me. If you don't like it, then get out of the way. Mom, why won't that man listen? He doesn't obey the driver or the old lady. He's a bad guy. Yes, he is, but let's just stay quiet, okay? What a noisy brat. Hey, kid. Shut your mouth. Adults have their own reasons for things. Keep quiet, or I'll shut you up myself. Sir, please refrain from threatening other passengers. Oh, so you'll keep me company instead, huh? With that, the man reached out and placed a hand on the driver's shoulder. If his hand slipped, or if she startled, she might lose control of the vehicle. The man sneered, a disgusting grin spreading across his face, just as the driver let out a sharp cry. Help, someone, stop him. The driver was unable to act, and the gang-like man was clearly escalating. Whatever he was planning, this couldn't end well. If nothing was done, an accident was inevitable. But the mother and old lady were both women. If anyone was going to stop that man, it had to be me. I stood up and called out to the child's mother, "Get the AED ready." The bus had an AED on board, though I'd never used one before. If it came down to it, I had no idea how to operate it. Still, the guy had brought this on himself, so as long as I did my part, it wouldn't be my problem. I walked up to the driver's seat and grabbed the man by the shoulder. "Hey, you need to knock it off." "Huh? What did you just say to me? Do you not get how dangerous this is, acting like this here?" "Dangerous? What the hell are you talking about?" His breath reeked of alcohol, making me want to turn my head away. "Man, with your booze breath, you're torturing the driver. Don't you think that's way too much? Booze breath? You're so annoying. Stay out of my business. I wouldn't be saying anything if I could ignore this. But if you keep this up, we'll all be goners because of you. Driver, can you pull over somewhere safe?" "Oh, sure." The driver pulled over to the shoulder, where the landscape was nothing but rice paddies. The sight brought back childhood memories, but now wasn't the time for nostalgia. Once the bus stopped and the door opened, I told the man to get off. Of course, he refused. Why the hell should I get off here? This isn't my stop. If you want to get off, do it yourself. That's not how this works. If you don't get off, there was no point in stopping the bus. I'm not getting off. If you really won't get off, then sit down and stay quiet. No more drinking or eating that stinky crap. Stinky? You've been going on and on about stinky. Shut the hell up. It's stinky, so I'll call it stinky. If it weren't, I wouldn't say anything. And you sticking yourself to the driver is making everyone anxious. If you want to go to the other side, go by yourself. Who said I want to die? You're acting like it, distracting the driver and pulling this crap. If you weren't looking for trouble, you wouldn't do this. Or do you just not understand danger? Even a little kid gets it. Are you mocking me, punk? Mocking you? I'm just telling the truth. If you've got a problem with that, then get off the bus. Oh, so you want to fight me, huh? Fine by me. Nobody's ever beaten me, you idiot. Yeah. Now get off. I grabbed the man and threw him out of the bus. The rough-looking man, thrown out, stumbled on his shaky legs, missed a step, and fell onto the gravel road. He came dangerously close to falling into the rice field but managed to avoid it just in time. Good thing you didn't fall into the rice field. The rice doesn't deserve that. Would have been a shame. Damn it. That hurt. What the hell is your problem? You're the one who fell, idiot. I followed him off the bus, grabbed him by the collar, and dragged him toward the back of the vehicle. Let go of me. I'll let go soon enough. I don't want to touch someone as filthy as you any longer than I have to. What did you just say? Listen up. Just because there's a beautiful driver on this rural bus doesn't mean you can mess with her. Do you not get how distracting you are? She should be thankful I talked to her. Are you stupid? Nobody appreciates being harassed. Would you thank a cop for falsely accusing you and tossing you in jail just because they talked to you? That's completely different. It's exactly the same. And let me remind you, a bus is a confined space. Eating and drinking smelly stuff can make people sick. If you can't understand that, don't get on the bus. What? I'll do whatever I want. Didn't anyone ever teach you basic manners? Even if you didn't study, your parents would have taught you anyway. Or were you raised by wolves in the mountains? Of course not. Then use your common sense. Even a kid understands it. You're so damn annoying. You want me to punch you? That's my line. I'm a member of the Henderson family. And you're thinking of picking a fight with me? You've got guts, I'll give you that. Cut the tough talk. Acting high and mighty because you're a gang? That doesn't mean a thing. Shut up. Do you want to find out what happens when a civilian picks a fight with a gang? Too bad for you. I might be a civilian now, but up until just recently, I was gang too. And not just any gang. I was so feared that anyone who didn't know my name was considered a rookie. They called me a legendary gang. If you're thinking about stepping to me, even if you're weaker than a fly, I won't go easy on you. What the hell are you talking about? Big talk for a former gang. I'm an active member. With that, the man swung a punch at me. All the passengers had gathered at the back of the bus, watching through the windows. When the man suddenly lunged at me, they screamed in shock. But there was no way I'd go down so easily. I dodged his punch, landed a heavy blow on him, and followed up with a swift kick as he staggered. The man toppled onto the gravel, and as he lay there, I stomped on his stomach, eliciting a croaking sound like a frog. Nobody can beat you, huh? Too bad for you, even if there's no one in this rural town to take you down. I'm from the city. And back in the city, there wasn't a soul who could stand up to me. I'm sorry. You get it now? Can you behave yourself on the bus? If you're itching for a fight, go pick one with another gang. Yes, sir. All right, I'll let you back on the bus. But if you act up again, I'll personally throw you into the rice field. Or maybe you'd prefer some help from the AED. Not that I know how to use it, so if you die gasping for air, don't expect anyone to save you. Understood. I'll behave. The man repeated his apologies and quietly sat down. I sat beside him, making sure he wouldn't do anything stupid. But his stop was far beyond mine. I'm getting off soon. If I hear about you causing trouble after I leave, I won't forgive you. Yes, of course. For the record, what's your name? I'm James. James from the Henderson family, got it. I'll remember that. Hey, what about this? I turned to see the child holding the AED. Oh, thanks. Looks like we didn't need it. Could you put it back where it belongs? Mom, he says we don't need it. The mother nodded, bowed slightly, and returned the AED to its place. The bus resumed its journey without incident. When it reached my stop, I gave the man one final warning. He lowered his head in embarrassment. The next day, I was enjoying a leisurely breakfast prepared by my mom, sipping tea for the first time in ages. As I glanced at the local newspaper, a large headline caught my eye: bus accident. A bus accident? Reading further, I realized it was the same bus I had ridden yesterday. What the hell happened? The article explained that the accident occurred after I got off. The driver had lost control and crashed into a guardrail. The passengers were thrown from their seats, and the driver sustained serious injuries and was now hospitalized. The first thing that came to my mind was the gang from yesterday. I decided to visit the hospital to check on the driver and get some answers. The hospital room was a shared space with a few other patients, but she was hiding behind a curtain, clearly shaken. Hey, it's me from yesterday. Oh, you remember me? Yes. Her voice trembled, and every time she heard footsteps beyond the curtain, her face grew tense with fear. What's wrong? Why are you so scared? I'm scared. That man from yesterday might come back. Ever since the accident, I've been terrified. What do you mean? What exactly happened to lead to this? Well, she looked down, hesitating to decide whether she should tell me. If you tell me what happened, I'll do everything I can to help you overcome your fear. I think I can handle it. Thank you. Actually, after you got off yesterday, that man started making a scene, and the bus was in chaos. Somehow, I kept driving. But when we got to the stop where the elderly lady was getting off, I stood up to help her. That's when he jumped into the driver's seat and sped off. He crashed straight into the guardrail. None of us expected something like that, so we weren't braced for it. That child was thrown out of the seat. The elderly woman fell while standing and hurt her back, and I suffered a fracture myself. That man came up to me afterward. Not to help but to threaten me. He said if I told anyone about what happened, he'd come back to kill me. Ever since then, I'd been scared he might come for me. So you told someone about the culprit, didn't you? I had to report what happened to the company. So, yes, I did. I see. That's how it is, huh? Do you think he'll really come? What should I do if he does? The sheer audacity of causing such a deliberate accident and fleeing afterward filled me with nothing but rage. Don't worry. If it comes to that, I'll handle it. In a quiet town like this, someone like him has no place. I'll make sure he's dealt with. Thank you so much. Please, I'm counting on you. With those words, she bowed her head to me. As soon as I left the hospital, I headed straight for the office of the Henderson family that man belonged to. The place was, as expected for a rural office, an old traditional house turned into a makeshift headquarters. Well. Nice setup. But knowing that guy's here makes it unforgivable. I stood at the open entrance and shouted loudly, "Is Mr. Henderson here?" After yelling several times, a young member came out. When I demanded to see Mr. Henderson, he himself emerged from the back. "Who are you?" "I don't recognize you." "Yeah, I figured." "I'm Travis." "And what are you here for?" "You heard about the bus accident yesterday?" "Of course. I'm here to talk about that." "I'm not sure what you mean, but come on in." I was allowed inside and guided to a room with a sofa. While Mr. Henderson seemed welcoming, his subordinates were clearly tense, wondering what I was going to do. "All right, so what's this about? Do you have a guy named James here?" "Yeah, James is one of ours. He's the one responsible for that accident." "What do you mean?" I explained everything that had happened the previous day in full detail. I thought that once the boss understood what his man had done, he'd take appropriate action to discipline him. But it seemed I was far too optimistic. "Oh, and what of it?" "What?" "I've got to hand it to you for barging into our turf. But as far as I'm concerned, I couldn't care less about what you're saying some civilian accused my guy of." "What?" "So in this town, gang don't think twice about hurting civilians? Of course, it's not ideal for us to mess with regular people. But so what? This doesn't tarnish our name in any way. Why should I bother listening to this story and get all worked up over it? At the end of the day, it was just one guy acting on his own." "What?" "That accident caused serious injuries to innocent people." "Yeah, and?" "That's no big deal to us." "So that's how your group operates, huh?" "That's right. There's nothing to worry about on our end." "I see. I really misunderstood, didn't I? I didn't think a small-town gang like you would be so bold. Seems like you're the one misunderstanding something. This is a gang office. You think you can just waltz in here and demand an apology for something one of my guys did? That's not gonna happen." "Got it. That makes things crystal clear. In that case, I guess there's no choice but to take down your group." "Huh? What the hell are you saying? A regular guy like you thinks he can take us down?" "Yeah, an ordinary civilian wouldn't stand a chance." "But I'm no ordinary guy. I'm an ex-gang. And not just any ex-gang. I was part of the Kennedy family, one of the most powerful in the city." "Taking down a small-time operation like yours? That's nothing. A leader of the Kennedy?" "That's right. The legendary gang from Kennedy." "Travis." Finally realizing who I was, Mr. Henderson stood up from the sofa and immediately bowed his head. "I can't believe it's Travis from the Kennedys. My sincerest apologies. I've been terribly rude. So, now you get it. Yes, I understand completely. If it's you, taking down our family would be child's play. So please, I beg you, spare the Henderson family. There are a lot of members who would be left in ruins if we were destroyed. Yeah, I figured. So, how are you going to make this right? Hey. Call James. Tell him to get here immediately. At the boss's command, a young man scrambled to make the call. James arrived quickly, but when he saw me sitting on the sofa, his face turned pale with shock. James. What exactly did you do in that bus accident yesterday? I didn't do anything. Travis here knows everything about what you did. However, James seemed convinced that I had no idea about what happened after I left, so he spewed nothing but convenient lies. Knowing the truth, I approached James, grabbed his hand, and faced him directly. James, if you don't tell the truth, this hand of yours might not work anymore. Ow, ow. What are you doing? I'm telling you to speak the truth. If you keep lying, this hand is going to bend in ways it was never meant to. Alright. Fine. Nothing much happened after you got off. The only thing was that the pretty driver suddenly veered the bus and crashed into the guardrail. Is that so? Ow. Stop it. I told you what would happen if you lied, didn't I? Okay. It was me. After you got off, that pretty driver wouldn't listen to me. So when she stepped away from the driver's seat, I took over and drove it into the guardrail. Thanks for finally telling the truth. You could have avoided the pain if you'd been honest from the start. I can't believe this. Did you really do something so stupid? I'm sorry. Not only is what you did unforgivable, but lying to me, your boss, right to my face? That's just as bad. Now that we've got the truth, it's time to pay for the damages. You'll cover the compensation for the driver and the passengers, along with the repair costs for the bus. Wait, what? Compensation is $100,000 per person. That's 4 people, so $400,000. $100,000 each? That's insane. Plus $600,000 for the bus repairs. That's a total of $1 million. What, you got a problem with that? That's just impossible. Oh, is that so? How about we make it $2 million instead? No complaints, but how soon do you expect me to pay that? There's no way I have that kind of money. Right now. I'm not giving you a second chance. Whether you've got the money or not, it's no longer my concern. You can't be serious. A small-town gang family like us doesn't have that kind of cash lying around. And immediately? That's impossible. Is that so? Then I guess there's only one option left. You'll have to pay with your life. My life? Mr. Henderson, please. Loan me the $1 million. This guy is serious about coming after me. What makes you think we've got that kind of money? No matter how much you hustle, there's no way we can pull together that kind of cash on short notice. Travis, please. I'll work to pay it off. Just don't take my life. I'm begging you. You think I have the patience for that? I'm known for my short temper. If you can't pay now, I've got a loan shark I can introduce you to. He'll front you the $1 million immediately. A loan shark? Seriously? Yeah. Big city gang go to him whenever they need quick cash. Are you serious? Fine, please, introduce me to him. Alright, then. I'll set it up for you. I pulled out my phone and called the loan shark, explaining the situation and requesting the $1 million loan. The loan shark promised immediate funds and arranged to take James off my hands. After withdrawing the money, I headed to the hospital. It's all done. All done? Yeah. That guy is probably out in the freezing Bering Sea catching crabs by now. What? And here's $1 million. It's from him. $100,000 each for you and the passengers, and the remaining $600,000 goes to the bus company. Whether they fix the bus or buy a new one, it'll cost a decent amount. Buses are meant to protect lives. So make sure this money goes towards safe operations. Thank you so much. That means you don't have to worry about him coming back. Got it? Yes, thank you. You've been a great help. And about your situation, there's no way the bus company's firing you, right? No, the company is owned by my father, so I won't be fired. But honestly, the thought of something like this happening again terrifies me. I've always dreamed of being a driver since I was a child, but I think it's time for me to leave the job. I see. That's a real shame. I can't help it. I'm just too weak. Yeah, I get it. Well, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask for my help. With that, I left her hospital room. Afterward, I visited her hospital room repeatedly to offer my support. Eventually, she was discharged, overcame her fear, and made her comeback as a bus driver. You were walking with a guy today, weren't you? You two looked really good together. Are you guys getting pretty close? The guy, of course, was my coworker, James. I'm sure my wife, Sophia, realizes that too. Feeling like I might lose control from this overwhelming sense of emptiness, I can't help but blame Sophia with a sarcastic tone. Sophia didn't deny it, she simply looked down, staying silent. So by not saying anything, you're basically saying I'm right, huh? Thanks for everything. Go on, be with him. I'll send your stuff later. With that, I turned Sophia out of the house. As I locked the front door, an even heavier sense of sadness crushed down on me. Sophia will probably move in with James. And honestly, she'll be happier that way. I returned to the living room and began gathering information on the divorce process. The next week, I informed my boss, David, of my intention to quit. It was hard to explain my situation and what had happened, but I knew I couldn't avoid it if I wanted to move forward. Not wanting to face James, I finished all my tasks while he was out on fieldwork. A completely different life awaits me now. I brace myself to confront it. My name is Michael. I'm in my 40s, working as a systems engineer. We don't have kids yet, but Sophia and I have been living happily together, and I'm satisfied with my life. Sophia is about 10 years younger than me, and people often tease me, saying that she looks young. But I'm the one with the more immature mindset, thanks to her mature outlook and graceful manner. But lately, my beloved wife has found herself in a bit of a troublesome situation. A while back, I brought my coworker, James, over for dinner, and it seems he developed an instant crush on Sophia. Of course, James acts normally in front of me, but it turns out he's been secretly messaging her, which I only recently discovered. One day, while we were having dinner, Sophia looked at me with concern and asked, "Hey, are you pushing yourself to finish work early? I heard things are tough right now." I was surprised she'd bring up about my work so suddenly, and a question popped into my mind. Sure, work's been busy, but there's no way Sophia would know about the specifics. Why would she say something like that out of the blue? I asked her why. Looking troubled, Sophia told me, "Remember how I once mentioned that James kept contacting me? He still does, and he told me you're going through a rough time. James has a reputation for bad relationships. And really, what is he thinking, staying in touch with his co-worker's wife?" Annoyed by his behavior, I set some boundaries with Sophia. Don't worry about my work. Besides, James only reaches out because you're too nice. Ignoring him is just fine, don't bother responding. I trust you're not the one reaching out to him, right? Sophia, pouting a bit, replied, "Of course not," and showed me her phone. See? I've never sent him a single message from me. And besides, ignoring him would just mess things up between you two at work. I'm more concerned about you. Sophia is genuinely so kind. Worrying less about the inconvenience James causes her and more about whether her cold responses might affect my work environment. I appreciated her thoughtfulness, but then I noticed something strange in her text history with James. He'd sent messages claiming I'd made an impossible mistake at work, and even said I'd been flirting with female coworkers. Which was a total fabrication. What's this about? Sure, things have been hectic at work, but I haven't made any big mistakes or messed around with anyone. As I tried to clear my name, Sophia chuckled softly. Don't worry. I trust you. Why would I believe James's word over yours? If anything, it's shocking you'd think I would. Seeing Sophia pretending to cry in that theatrical way, I let out a relieved, "You're right." Once I finished her homemade meal, I felt both full and at ease. Thanks, that was delicious. I'll turn in early tonight to be ready for tomorrow. Sophia smiled softly, saying, "Have a good rest," as she began clearing the table. As I coughed, maybe from something getting caught in my throat, Sophia hurried over with a cup of tea. Are you okay? Honestly, you're like a kid. Chew properly before you swallow, alright? She rubbed her stomach as she said this, and I gave her a warning too. Are you constipated again? Sophia, you need to chew properly, or it'll affect your digestion, I said. For a moment, Sophia's expression seemed to twist, but she quickly smiled again, so maybe I imagined it. As she efficiently went about her household chores, I told her goodnight and headed to the bedroom. The next day at work, I decided to approach James and say something. Good morning. Seems like my wife's been getting a lot of attention from you lately. I appreciate you looking out for her, but she's pretty busy. So maybe take it down a notch? I thought it was a light jab, but James played innocent, acting as if he knew nothing. What are you talking about? I haven't seen Sophia since we had dinner at your place. I couldn't help feeling irritated, so I addressed it more directly. Don't play dumb. You're messaging her every day. You keep this up, and you're going to miss your chance to settle down seriously. James shrugged with a playful expression and waved his hand in front of his face, saying, Oh yeah, that's right. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm not trying to get close to Sophia. Honestly, I'm too busy with other girls and mixers to even think about that. Saying this without a hint of shame, James then continued, I almost forgot. Right, a woman from accounting wanted me to listen to some of her concerns tonight. Michael, want to come along? I don't want people getting the wrong impression with just the two of us out. Considering James's reputation, a one-on-one drink with a female coworker would definitely spark rumors, regardless of their intentions. Plus, James's drinking habits aren't the best, so it wouldn't hurt to supervise. I texted Sophia, letting her know I'd be home late due to an urgent matter, and agreed to go. After work, we met at a pub. And I was relieved that her problem was simply feeling left behind amid a surge of marriage-minded friends. Maybe the drinks were getting to him. James suddenly spilled his beer, accidentally soaking her blouse. Are you all right? Let me get a clean towel right away, I said, standing up to help. James handed me a towel. Here, this one's clean. Since I caused it, I'll grab another, James said, standing up to look for a waiter. The female coworker, maybe a bit tipsy, was slowly dabbing at her clothes. I tried to avoid touching her as I wiped down the table and cleaned any lingering moisture on my arm. After a short while, James returned with a few fresh towels. Sorry for the wait. Here, use these. Once things had settled down, we resumed our food and drinks. Both seemed pretty buzzed but looked like they were just old friends, so I didn't worry. Seeing it was time to wrap up, I picked up the tab and stood up. Thanks for a good evening. I'll be heading out. I'll cover this round, so if you order more, take care of that, alright? I stopped the female coworker from paying and headed to the cashier. Once I had settled the bill, I went straight home. When I got back, the clock read around 11 p.m. Normally, Sophia would already be asleep, but I noticed the light in the living room was on. Assuming she'd stayed up late, I stepped inside and found her sitting seriously in a chair. "I'm back. Were you waiting for me? Sorry for being late." With the TV off, she'd probably been waiting for me to return. I apologized, but Sophia shook her head slowly. "I couldn't sleep, thinking things over. I want to trust you, but can you explain this?" Handing me her phone, I was shocked by what I saw on the screen. It was a picture of me from earlier at the pub. The sender was James. Being photographed wasn't the issue, it was the situation in the image that posed a problem. To anyone else, it looked like I had my hand on the female coworker's body. Of course, knowing the context, I knew there was no issue, but to an outsider, it could easily appear as if we were just cozying up. Before I could explain, Sophia scrolled further on the screen. "Is this true? I want to hear it straight from you." Seeing the words on her messaging app, I was taken aback even more. "I spotted him out drinking with a female coworker he's always close with," the message had read before the photo explanation. "There's no way that's true. James was there too." "He wasn't just there by coincidence either, I was invited by him," I protested. Sophia believed me right away, though I knew there must still be some lingering doubts in her mind. Then, an idea struck me, and I opened my wallet. Sure enough, the receipt listed the number of guests, and it clearly said 3. See? The receipt here shows the number of people. James is playing a seriously twisted prank. I'll talk to him about this tomorrow. As I coughed lightly, saying this, Sophia finally looked relieved. "It's just James messing around. But that cough has been dragging on for a while now. Maybe you should get it checked out over the weekend? Anyway, I'll head to bed." After Sophia said she disappeared into the bedroom, I decided to take a shower. The next day, I confronted James, who, true to form, casually shrugged and said, "I was just kidding around." I didn't think it would turn into such a big deal. It's clearly the kind of prank that could escalate, but James seems to lack that kind of awareness. I made sure James understood he needed to cut it out, making him promise not to send Sophia any more messages that would cause her concern. That weekend, since my cough hadn't improved, I followed Sophia's advice and went to the doctor. On the way back, as I sat on a bench looking up at the overcast sky, trying to clear my head, an unbelievable scene caught my eye. Across the street, I saw Sophia and James walking together, looking friendly. Curious about where they were headed, I decided to follow them discreetly. They entered a side alley and walked into a building. The sign read "Private Karaoke Rooms." After thinking things over, I sighed and headed back home. A few hours later, Sophia returned, looking cheerful. As I silently watched her, she sat down across from me and asked, "What's wrong? You were out with a guy today, right? You looked really good together. You two seem pretty close, don't you?" Of course, I was referring to James. And surely, Sophia understood that too. On the verge of being consumed by a sense of loss, I couldn't help but accuse her with a bitter tone. Sophia didn't deny it, she simply looked down and stayed silent. "So, by staying quiet, you're basically admitting I'm right, aren't you? Thanks for everything. Go to be with him if you want. I'll send your stuff over." With that, I sent Sophia out of the house. As I locked the door, an even heavier sadness pressed down on me. Sophia would likely go live with James now. She would undoubtedly be happier that way. Returning to the living room, I started gathering information for the divorce process. The following week, I informed David of my decision to resign. Explaining the situation and what had happened was painful, but I knew it was necessary to move forward. Not wanting to face James, I wrapped up all my tasks while he was out in the field. A completely new life awaited me now. I steeled myself to face it head on. The apartment felt far too spacious without Sophia. Since I was changing jobs and didn't feel like staying in the same neighborhood, I looked for a smaller, more affordable place. Moving out by myself were both physically taxing and emotionally draining, but I managed, and I felt ready to start my new solo life. As I settled into my new place, my cough was finally diagnosed, and after 6 months of treatment, I had made a full recovery and found a new job. Life was fulfilling again. Fortunately, I'd found a coworker who felt like a close friend despite my age. His name was Alex, a helpful colleague who'd shown me the ropes since I joined. He was around Sophia's age, perhaps. I chuckled at myself for still measuring things by Sophia, even after the divorce. One day, Alex came to me with an unexpected suggestion. "Michael, you're free this Christmas, right? Want to join me for a mixer?" The sudden proposal made me burst out laughing. "Are you seriously asking if I'm free on the Christmas? You're rude." "Well, yeah, I am free, but I'll pass. It'd be boring with an old guy like me. You go have fun with the younger crowd." Then Alex shook his head and insisted with unusual enthusiasm. "Michael, you're a great conversationalist and a good listener. And, to tell you the truth, I always end up running the show at these group dates. So I never get to enjoy myself. Michael, I'm counting on you." Seeing Alex putting his hands together in a pleading gesture made me smile despite myself. I'd only been going back and forth between work and home lately, so if it would help Alex out, maybe a little change of pace wouldn't be so bad. "Alright, I'll join this time. But only for the first round. The older guy like me doesn't have the stamina for more. I'll be heading home after that." When I said this, Alex beamed like a kid. "Thanks, Michael. I owe you one. I'll follow you forever." He was charming but also a bit of a smooth talker. I felt a bit embarrassed, nearly scratching my head, but I held back. On the day of the mixer, the town was bustling with couples, and I headed to the meeting spot. In front of the restaurant, Alex and another younger coworker were waiting for me, and we entered together. The women were already seated, but I was stunned to see a completely unexpected person. Sophia was there. After nearly a year of not seeing each other, both Sophia and I couldn't help but act a bit awkwardly. Noticing this, Alex glanced between us and murmured, "Could it be? Do you two know each other? You look like a great-looking couple. What's the story here?" I was momentarily distracted by the strange feeling that something was different about Sophia's hair, so I responded a beat late. Sophia was also looking at me, but when our eyes met, she quickly looked away apologetically. One of the other women, who seemed to know some background, suggested, "Maybe you two should go to a different place to catch up?" Alex, likely picking up on the vibe, tried to help out in his own way. He agreed with the woman's suggestion, smiling as he said it. "If it's been a while, you must have a lot to catch up on. Go ahead and enjoy yourselves." Going with the flow, Sophia and I ended up leaving together. We chose a restaurant a little farther away, where we could sit and have a meal together. I'm surprised. But are you really okay with coming to something like this? James is not exactly the easygoing type when it comes to jealousy, I commented. Sophia nodded with a slight chuckle. You're so right. Even back when we were living together, he acted as if I was his girl, even though I had no interest in him. Puzzled by her words, I couldn't help but ask a more probing question. So, how are things with James? Are you two not getting along? Sophia laughed and answered. Getting along? There's nothing between me and James. He still won't stop pestering me, and it's exhausting trying to avoid him. I had assumed they'd been living together, so her answer left me speechless. Sensing my reaction, Sophia said, actually, and began to explain, rubbing her stomach. Sophia had been experiencing mysterious abdominal pain and had gone to the hospital for tests. It was then she discovered that she was facing a serious illness. If she pursued treatment, she wouldn't be able to have children, and she had struggled with that decision. She knew I'd always wanted kids, and she herself had been hoping to start a family soon, so it was a huge blow. Feeling that she couldn't fulfill my hopes if we stayed married, she started blaming herself. After agonizing over it, Sophia had concluded that it would be better for me if we separated. That's when, with some guilt, she decided to involve James in her plan. On the day I went to the hospital, Sophia and James had intentionally planned to walk by, right where I'd see them. They had orchestrated it together to make it easier for me to bring up divorce. Apparently, Sophia had told James, "I have no intention of dating you. I just want to separate from my husband." But since the divorce was convenient for James as well, he gladly agreed to help. After she explained everything, Sophia looked at me, her eyes full of concern. "More importantly, could it be that you're—" Seeing her worried expression, I smiled and reassured her, "I'm fine." In truth, I had also been diagnosed with a serious illness, just as she had. The cough that wouldn't go away had led me to get checked, and fortunately, it was caught early. But at the time, I was filled with anxiety, not knowing what the future held. Even if we'd had children, I might not have been able to be there to raise them. And that would only have left Sophia to bear all the burden alone, which wouldn't have been fair to her or to the child. At the time, when I was struggling with these doubts, I happened to see Sophia and James walking together, looking close. Half out of a sense of resignation, I convinced myself that stepping aside was the best way for Sophia to be happy. But after learning that Sophia had been carrying her own burdens, I realized how much we had lacked communication and felt regret. Reflecting on this, I asked Sophia, "You noticed my illness because of my hair, didn't you? Looks like we're in the same boat." I also had felt something was off when I saw Sophia after so long. I'd realized she was wearing a wig. She must have immediately recognized my hair as artificial, just as I had with hers. After my hair loss due to the treatment's side effects, I'd gained an almost instinctive ability to tell natural hair from wigs. A sensitivity that many people with similar experiences seem to develop. As we talked, the misunderstandings between Sophia and me dissolved, and it felt like our previous closeness was coming back. While we were enjoying our meal together, a man suddenly sat down at our table. "It was hard to get you to make time, so I came to see you myself." Imagine my surprise finding you having dinner with your ex-husband on Christmas, James said in an unsettling tone. Sophia had told me James was still pestering her, but I hadn't expected him to show up here. But how did he know we were here? Curious, I asked James, "How did you find us?" "We didn't plan to come here, so there's no way you'd know." I glanced at Sophia, who looked just as confused. James smirked, raising one corner of his mouth as he replied, "It's none of your business. But fine, I'll tell you. When I borrowed Sophia's phone the other day, I installed a location tracking app. We're close enough to share our phones, you know." Upon hearing this, Sophia quickly checked her phone, looking distressed. Her face turned pale as she found what he was referring to. "Is this it? How dare you do something like this without my permission?" Sophia, rarely one to show much emotion, was visibly angry, and even James looked taken aback. He scrambled to make excuses, trying to cover it up. "When you left your phone on the table to go to the restroom, I figured. I mean, we're close, so there's no need to be so upset, right?" At this, Sophia finally seemed to reach her limit. "Just leave. And don't ever show up in front of us again. I want to try again with Michael." She said this, then took my hand and stood up. As we left, I glanced back to see James sitting at the table with a devastated expression on his face. Sophia has since consulted an attorney about James' behavior. The investigation has uncovered various stalking behaviors like tampering with her mail and following her. And it's likely he'll face some form of punishment. According to a former co-worker, James' misconduct had reached his boss, David, and the company had begun to view it as a serious issue. Female employees, in particular, had started to openly avoid him, and reports of his inappropriate behavior continued to pile up. Uncomfortable with the situation, James eventually disappeared from the company. Though he may feel safe from work repercussions, his actions towards Sophia could result in criminal charges for invasion of privacy. Installing a GPS app on someone's phone without consent can lead to up to 3 years in prison or a fine of up to $5,000. Though he faces a difficult road, I hope he learns from this and refrains from selfish, unethical actions in his future work. After many discussions, Sophia and I have remarried. We learned the importance of open communication and not keeping secrets, and now we make an effort to consult each other even on small matters, building a relationship of mutual support. Thankfully, both of us have shown no signs of illness recurrence, and we spend our weekends actively, often traveling. From here on, I believe Sophia and I will support each other through anything life brings. We made a promise to cherish our health and live each day with gratitude. This shopping street is about a 20-minute walk from the station. Despite it being midday on the weekend, most shops have their rolling shutters down, and there are hardly any customers in sight. In this fading area, one small stationery shop somehow manages to keep its doors open. The shop, which has been around since my great-grandfather's time, is called Taylor Stationery Paradise. Paradise? Yeah, right, great-grandpa, you were definitely joking. I muttered in irritation as I sat on a chair beside the register. My name is Alexander, 27. Since my father had to step down 2 years ago due to worsening hernia issues, I've been running the shop in his place. The nearby department stores and trendy shops have drawn customers away, and just like this whole area, this traditional shopping street has declined steadily. Add to that the aging shopkeepers, the fact that we're a bit of a walk from the station, and other factors, and one by one, shops closed. As more shops disappeared, fewer customers showed up. As a result, my shop has been driven to the edge of bankruptcy. That's why the word paradise, which my great-grandfather added to the shop's name, hoping it would someday become a bustling, joyful place, has come to sound a bit bitter to me. I know he meant no harm by it, but these days, we sometimes go the whole day without a single customer, and the name just feels harder to ignore. It's not like I want to change the name, though. Changing it wouldn't suddenly bring in customers. My dad even told me when he handed over the shop, "You can walk away if you want, find a different path." But in the end, I love this shop and this street full of memories. I just don't want to give up yet. I'd love to see it breathe some life again, like back when I was little. Lost in thought, I sighed deeply. Just then, the bell on the sliding door jingled brightly. It seemed a customer had entered the shop. "Welcome. Is there anything you're looking for?" I quickly stood up from my chair. But when I saw the woman walking toward me, I was stunned into silence. She looked to be in her 20s, with flashy makeup and blonde hair. Was she what people call a fashion-forward girl? She was dressed in a pink leopard print dress, with rhinestone-studded nails that were unusually long, shining in a rainbow of colors. "Are you the owner of this stationery shop, Alexander?" She scrutinized my face and asked hesitantly. Yes, that's me." I stammered, feeling confused. Then, without warning, she handed me a plastic file folder with a single sheet of white paper inside. I took it cautiously and looked closely. Her photo was pasted on the paper, with black text filling every inch like a swarm of ants. "This is a resume, right? What's going on?" I asked, bewildered. She, looking slightly embarrassed, replied with a bit of a scowl. "I want to work here. I know it's sudden, but could you give me an interview right now?" I didn't quite understand her request and found myself staring in silence. But she swept her blonde curls over her shoulder, sat confidently in the chair I'd just been sitting in, and crossed her legs. From above, I could see her thick false eyelashes and the blue contact lenses that made her eyes look even more intense. Stunned by her bold makeup and impressively long nails, I finally managed to find my voice. Wait a second. You're serious? I never put up any job ads, and as you can see, we're barely holding on. We don't have the budget to hire anyone. She looked me in the eye, her expression serious, and replied, I know that even without being told. The shops around here are all closing down one after another, and this place doesn't have long either, does it? But working at this stationery shop has been my dream since I was little. I even moved here from Tokyo by myself just for this. Wait, you moved all the way here from Tokyo just to work here? I muttered in disbelief, quickly double-checking the resume she had handed me. Her name was Lily, 23. After graduating from vocational school, she worked as a nail technician in Tokyo. She's been in that job ever since, apparently. I see, so you were a nail artist. I mean, that rainbow-colored nail art today is definitely impressive. But, with those nails, the customers here might be a bit shocked. Of course, if you do it for your personal style, that's perfectly fine. Looking at the resume and the perplexed expression on my face, she suddenly brightened up. Oh? So you're saying if I drop the nails, you'll hire me? She leaned forward eagerly. Hold on. I never said I'd hire you. And anyway, why are you so fixated on this shop? Surely, there are plenty of other places you could work besides this one that's on the verge of closing. I asked, sounding a bit exasperated. She suddenly looked hurt. I didn't understand why, and it left me feeling a little confused. I can't explain all my reasons right now. But I want to work here, no matter what. I'll make sure we get more customers. Why don't you let me work for 1 month on a trial basis? I don't even need a salary for that time. Seeing her earnest look, tears welling up in her eyes, I folded my arms and thought about it for a while. I knew I should probably say no, but she did say that working here had been her dream since she was a child. I was curious about why that was, why she'd gone so far as to move just to be here. Alright, if you're really that set on it, let's try it for 1 month as a trial hire. Hearing what I said, she looked absolutely delighted and sprang up from her chair. She grabbed my hands firmly with both of hers, shaking them up and down as she bounced lightly on her feet. Yes. I'm so excited to work with you, Alex. And so, the bold, blonde, fashion-forward girl Lily started working at my stationery shop the next day. 3 days later. Since she started at Taylor Stationery Paradise, Lily's makeup and hairstyle remained as flashy as when we first met. But she'd toned down her unusually long nails to a more modest look, just like I'd asked. This morning, as soon as she clocked in, she told me she wanted to add handwritten tags to highlight recommended products. So I got her some poster paper and colorful pens. Thanks, Alex. I'd seen bookstores do it, and I thought it was a great idea. Oh. And I'd also love to make a zoo corner with animal-themed stationery. Can I rearrange the shelves a bit for that? An animal stationery zoo? That's an interesting idea. Actually, we just got some new items in. Like staplers shaped like crocodile mouths and pens with bunny ears. This might be the perfect time to showcase them, I said as I hauled a cardboard box from the back of the store. As I looked over and saw her carefully crafting her handwritten tags at the counter, I thought maybe she was surprisingly serious about her work. She mentioned getting the idea from bookstores, so maybe she's a reader too? As I watched her, lost in thought, she looked up and gave me a shy, embarrassed smile. Is my style really that strange? What? Oh, no, not strange, more like unique. So, when did you start liking this kind of look? Well, I've liked bold styles since I was a kid, but I think I started using fake eyelashes and colored contact lenses around middle school. At first, I just wanted to look cute, so I read magazines and practiced makeup like anyone else. But I wanted to be even cuter. And I found that this style was my ultimate look. Listening to her, I nodded thoughtfully. Just as there are diverse perspectives in life, the standards of what people find cute vary from person to person. And as for me, as I got used to her presence, I found myself gradually starting to see her as cute in her own way. But with this style, people assume I'm, well, not too bright. I hate that, so I've always studied hard despite how I look. My vocabulary might be a bit rough, but I actually love reading novels. Not to brag, but I scored high on grammar exams. High scores on grammar exams? So you can breeze through writing complex grammar and spelling? That's seriously impressive. I praised her, recalling what she'd mentioned earlier. Ah, so that's why you go to bookstores sometimes, to buy novels. As I was thinking about that, I noticed her suddenly looking at me intently. Wondering what was going on, I continued checking the contents of the cardboard box when she unexpectedly asked me a question. Alex, do you prefer girls with a more refined look? Would you feel awkward being seen with a girl like me? I don't know. I think my type is just someone I feel is right, regardless of their fashion. Sure, people would stare. But that wouldn't make me dislike being with them. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Otherwise, you wouldn't have agreed to hire me, right? Her face softened, and she looked genuinely pleased. But all I thought was, maybe she was dumped by an ex over her style? I was oblivious to any deeper feelings behind her question. And just like that, clueless as ever, I went back to focusing on organizing the shop. 4 weeks later. Since then, we'd tried all sorts of ideas, posting recommended items on social media and handing out flyers Lily designed herself at the station. Thanks to our efforts, a few more customers were coming, but we were still far from our target. This is tough. Bringing paradise back to life isn't as easy as I'd hoped. You can buy stationery at department stores near the station. So it's hard to get people to walk all the way out here. I muttered, feeling my shoulders slump. Even though I knew I couldn't afford to give up, I felt my spirit on the verge of breaking. Mentally cornered, I sighed heavily, lamenting that at this rate, the shop might end up closing down under my watch. Just then, Lily, who'd been taking photos for our social media, came over and offered some encouragement. Well, at least more people are stopping by than last month, right? That's a big achievement. Besides, this is only the beginning. I'm not giving up. Okay? I'm heading out to hand out more flyers on my bike, and there's a new bakery by the river. I thought I'd stop by on the way back. Want me to bring you something to lift your spirits, Alex? Her kind words touched me, and I felt my heart skip a beat. She might look like a wild fashion-forward girl, but her heart was pure, like an angel. Maybe, just maybe, marrying someone like her could bring me happiness. Feeling my spirits lift, I replied, "All right, thanks. I'd love a little treat from the bakery." And watched as she headed out with a stack of flyers. 3 hours later. Lily still hadn't returned from handing out flyers. Starting to worry, I pulled out my phone and called her at the number she'd given me recently. But she didn't pick up, and time kept slipping by. I stared out the shop's front window with a sense of dread as the sky grew ominous, gray clouds blanketing the sky. I hear thunder in the distance. Looks like we're in for a storm. The weather forecast was way off today. Muttering to myself, I could no longer sit still. I grabbed a large umbrella from behind the register. Then I stepped outside, locked the door, pulled down the rolling shutters, and put up the temporarily closed sign. Then, I pulled out my phone and searched for the new bakery by the river that she'd mentioned. As the scent of rain grew closer, I picked up my pace. 20 minutes later. Walking along the riverbank toward the bakery, I spotted Lily's pink bicycle parked near a bridge. I rushed over and looked around, only to hear the splashing sound of water in the distance. Just in case, I looked down toward the riverbank, and to my surprise, there she was, wading in the shallows, doing something in the water. Looking closer, I saw her feeling around the riverbed, clearly searching for something. "Lily! What happened? Did you drop something?" I shouted, leaving the umbrella behind as I hurried down to her. Noticing me, she lifted her face, looking anxious and on the verge of tears. Alex, I'm sorry. I meant to call, but I left my phone in the shop's bathroom. My house key fell out of my pocket while I was riding my bike on the bridge. I think it landed somewhere around here, but I just can't find it. Oh, I see. I'll help you look, just wait a moment. I kicked off my shoes, rolled up my pant legs, and stepped into the river. Just then, unlucky as we were, it started to rain, drop by drop. But without her key, she wouldn't be able to go home. Seeing her desperately searching made me feel sorry for her, so I kept going, helping her look for the key without hesitation. How big is the key? And does it have any unique features? It's about the size of my palm, with a handmade whale keychain. The whale's actually a bit bigger than the key. A handmade whale keychain. Did you make it? Well, anyway, we'll talk later. Let's focus on finding it for now. The rain gradually grew heavier, pouring down until our hair and clothes were soaked. The water level seemed to be rising, making both of us feel increasingly anxious to find the key quickly. Oh no, I think my fake eyelashes are coming off in this rain. My makeup is totally ruined. I should have at least done my eyeliner with a permanent marker. A permanent marker? Are you that committed to your eye makeup? I'm betting you'd look gorgeous without all that. Like one of those classic transformations. As we were talking, a thick clump of her false eyelashes drifted right past me. I quickly picked it up and looked over to hand it back to her. But the moment I looked at her face to call out, I was stunned into silence by her nearly bare face. Oh, those are my eyelashes. Did you pick them up for me, Alex? Thanks. As she took them and wiped the raindrops from her eyes with the back of her hand, I realized, just as I'd suspected, that she was stunningly beautiful. But that wasn't the only reason I was so shocked. Seeing her face washed clean of makeup brought back memories of a girl who'd lived in my neighborhood long ago. It was 20 years ago, during the summer. Back then, I was a 6th grader, and I'd gone to the festival at the shopping street with a girl I was close with who lived nearby. The girl beside me was wearing flashy pink clothes with frills, laughing and playing around. She must have been about a 2nd grader back then, with her hair in 2 pigtails. I remember calling her Sunny. Sunny, what do you want to eat next? Let's see. I want that one. She pointed to the classic shaved ice stand, a festival staple. It was an especially hot day, and I'd been thinking I could go for something cold, too. Good idea. We might have to wait a bit, but I think 10 minutes won't be too bad. What flavor do you want, Sunny? Of course, strawberry, just like my clothes. I figured she wanted strawberry to match her outfit. Being an only child who'd always wanted a sibling, I adored her like a little sister. As the crowd grew, we held hands to avoid getting separated and chatted while we waited in line. 10 minutes later, we finally got our shaved ice, and we sat in a corner of the shopping street, eagerly digging in. Just then, a boy around middle school age, horsing around with his friends, accidentally bumped into her, knocking her shaved ice out of her hands. In slow motion, the ice scattered across the ground, and the light sound of the foam cup hitting the pavement echoed. She stood there, surprised, holding only her spoon, staring down at the fallen treat. The boy turned pale when he saw what had happened, but he didn't apologize and quickly walked away with his friends, pretending nothing had happened. Sunny, are you okay? Did you get hurt anywhere? When I asked her worriedly, she looked as if she was about to cry and replied, I'm okay, but I feel bad for the strawberry shaved ice we just bought. She picked up the fallen cup, confirmed it was empty, and quietly sniffled, letting a tear slip down her cheek. Panicking a little, I held out my blue tropical flavor shaved ice to her. It's not strawberry, but would you like to share mine? Of course, I could buy another one for you, too. Flustered, I made the offer, and she wiped her tears with her fingertips, giving a small nod. Then, looking a little happier, she said, "Thank you," and smiled brightly at me. Now, as an adult, Seeing Lily's bare face with her makeup washed away, I realized she might be the same girl from back then. Hesitantly, I asked, "Lily, are you the Sunny who used to live in my neighborhood?" She turned to me, looking completely shocked, and in her surprise, she lost her balance, nearly falling backward. I quickly reached out to support her back, helping her regain her footing. Our eyes met in an instant, and she gave me an embarrassed smile. Just then, something caught my eye, a small glint in the grass nearby. Thinking it might be the key, I scrambled out of the river and started parting the grass with my hands. There it is! The key with the whale charm. It didn't fall in the river after all. I shouted in excitement, picked up the key, and held it up in front of my face to inspect its condition. Fortunately, it was just a little dirty, with no signs of damage. She hurried over, her face lighting up as she took the key, looking at it with visible relief. Laughing together, we realized, well, I guess we didn't have to wade in the river after all, and quickly headed back. A few hours later, at my parents' house next to the stationery shop, we each took turns showering, and now, sitting on the chairs by the register. We talked about what had just happened. Wearing clothes borrowed from my mom. Lily, without her bold fashion-forward girl makeup, had a face as familiar and refined as the little girl I remembered. "You finally remembered me. I was so sad during the interview when it seemed like you'd completely forgotten," she said, pouting. I waved my hand, shaking my head in denial. "It's not like I forgot, it's just that I never would have guessed you two were the same person. I only ever called you by your nickname. So I didn't know your real name. And you moved away when I was in middle school, so it's been 15 years? Considering how much time has passed, it's a miracle I remembered anything at all." "A miracle, huh? That's so mean. And you're saying you might not have remembered me at all? You're the one who told me, when we grow up, let's get married and run the shop together, remember?" Hearing that, I almost choked on the tea I was drinking. To my horror, no matter how far back I reached into my memory, I couldn't recall ever proposing something like getting married and running a shop together. Nervous sweat started to trickle down my back. "So that's why you said in the interview that working here had been your dream since you were little. Now I finally understand what you meant," I said, staring off into the distance. She nodded enthusiastically. "Yep. When my dad got transferred and I had to move, you said that to me when I was crying because I was so sad. I figured you'd probably forgotten a childhood promise like that, and I didn't have my hopes up. But I never forgot. And once I was old enough to ride the train alone, I'd sometimes come by just to peek at the store. I was too shy to actually go in, though." "Wow. I didn't know any of that." My nonchalant response seemed to annoy her, and she let out a dissatisfied huff. But I didn't know what to say about a promise I couldn't even remember. And on top of that, it wasn't just about dating, she was talking about marriage. Though I'd started to feel drawn to her pure-hearted nature lately, I wasn't in any position to think about marriage with the shop on the brink of closure. "Of course, I think you're a good person, Sunny, and pretty cute too. But as you can see, the shop's been in the red for a while. And there's just no way I could promise you any kind of stable life." Seeing me so deep in thought, she suddenly brightened up and leaned forward. "Wait, so you do like me? You're saying that if the store goes into the black, you'll marry me, right?" This whole conversation felt oddly familiar. I frowned and said, "Hold on, I never said that. And making this store profitable again won't be that easy, even with all the effort we're putting in." But she didn't change her expression, just kept smiling as she replied, "Didn't I tell you? I'll figure something out. I've been checking in on this place for years, so I already knew the shop was in trouble. I'd been planning all kinds of strategies up to now, so I'm not giving up yet. So let's renew my contract. Just extend my trial period by 1 more month." Her relentless positivity, even at a time like this, left me both amazed and slightly exasperated. I couldn't help but wonder where she got all that confidence. At the same time, I had to admire the survival spirit of a girl like her. Compared to me, who easily got discouraged, her energy and determination were truly remarkable. Because of that, I realized that somewhere along the way, I'd come to feel strengthened by having her by my side. Alright. At this point, it's practically a full hire. I'll pay you properly, but in exchange, keep supporting me until the end. Her face lit up, and she nodded with a beaming smile. Without missing a beat, she brought out the poster board and pens for making signs. And we launched into another strategy session for the shop's future. A few days later, when I asked Sunny about the whale keychain on her key, I discovered that her hobby was making handmade crafts. She'd apparently been thinking about selling some of her work at our stationery shop for a while. So now I was setting up a display for the items she'd brought from home. There were strawberry pouches, seashell accessories, and more, all crafted beautifully. Her skill with fine details, no doubt honed from her work as a nail artist, really impressed me. At the same time, I started to wonder if we might be able to host some handmade craft workshops, just as Sunny returned from handing out flyers. Welcome back, Sunny. You were quick. Just then, a small bark came from somewhere nearby. Surprised, I paused my work and turned to see Sunny holding a small, white chihuahua in her arms. I found this little one wandering near the shop. When I called out, he started following me. I think he's lost. Do you think we could help find his owner? She said this with a worried look, gently stroking the chihuahua's head. Years ago, I used to have a corgi as the shop's mascot, and despite being surprised by this sudden encounter, I told her we'd keep the dog here until we found its owner. We called the local authorities and added a notice about the lost dog on the corner of our flyers. I'll post about him on my social media, too. I'm sure people will help spread the word and help us look. As she tapped away on her phone, the white chihuahua ran circles around her, eager for attention. The dog didn't have a collar, but its coat was shiny and well maintained as if it had been brushed daily. Definitely not the look of an abandoned pet. I'm sure the owner will be found soon. They obviously took good care of this little one. I crouched down and gently petted its sleek fur, and the chihuahua narrowed its big eyes happily, wagging its tail with joy. Around noon a few days later, I was checking the clock in the store, feeling my stomach starting to growl, when the doorbell chimed. In walked an elderly man with white hair. I had a strong feeling he was the dog's owner. Oh, excuse me. My name is George, and I live nearby. My friend saw a flyer and told me my dog might be here, he said. As soon as he spoke, the chihuahua, who'd been dozing on a cushion in the corner, woke up and darted over to him. Noticing, George knelt down, opened his arms, and embraced the dog gently. Thank God, my little Mahalo. I'm so glad you're safe, he said, holding back tears. I loosened his harness on our walk so he'd be more comfortable. And he slipped away. You took him in and kept him safe. Thank you so much. Seeing tears of joy well up in his eyes, I exchanged a glance with Sunny, and we both smiled, silently sharing at that wonderful moment. So, his name is Mahalo. That means thank you in Hawaiian, doesn't it? She asked. As she spoke to him, he nodded and replied. You know a lot. That's exactly right. I'd been in love with Hawaii since I was young. Over the years, after many trips there, I dreamed of bringing a piece of it back here, and that's how I ended up running a Hawaiian-style cafe in Japan. But now I'm turning 80. And it's getting harder to keep up in the kitchen. I'm thinking it might be time to close up the cafe soon. Then, as he spoke, an idea seemed to strike him. Oh, your shop is called Taylor Stationery Paradise, isn't it? Paradise means resort to me, like Hawaii. My cafe may be closing, but I have lots of resort-style furniture in good condition. If you'd like, I'd be happy to let you use it here. Hearing his words, we were both taken by surprise and found ourselves looking at each other once again. It was an unexpected offer, but a resort-style stationery shop? That might actually catch people's interest. Looking at Mahalo, who was now sitting obediently and wagging his tail, I couldn't help but say, this could be a great opportunity. Sunny and I both broke into smiles and told him, yes, we'd love to accept your offer. 2 months later. After receiving the furniture from George, we emptied our savings to renovate the stationery shop. We redid the walls and floors with ocean-inspired designs, installed a ceiling fan that spun elegantly, and placed lush plants throughout the space for a soothing vibe. We even added a cafe corner where customers could bring their own food and drink, set up relaxing music, and arranged chic furniture like hanging chairs and hammocks. News of the resort-style stationery store spread fast, and from the day of our reopening, the shop was buzzing with customers. I never imagined that the paradise in our shop's name would end up helping us this much. With the support of Mahalo, George, and Sunny's ideas, customers kept saying they couldn't wait to come back. The handmade craft classes Sunny was teaching were a big hit with kids and women alike. Filled with gratitude, I looked around at the bustling shop, amazed at how far we'd come. Sunny approached me with a beaming smile. The palm tree pens and pineapple pouches are selling like crazy, she reported happily. Great to hear. Maybe we should expand our resort-themed products. It might be fun to import items from overseas, too. I might even go on a sourcing trip to some resort destinations. I said so, my mind already imagining the possibilities. Blushing, she asked shyly, wait, does that mean this trip would be our honeymoon? Without denying it, I just smiled, and she gazed at me with a serious expression. Really? If you're not denying it, it's a promise, right? You won't get to forget it this time, she said with a grin. With a smile, I nodded, saying, got it. Then I gently took her hand under the counter and gave it a quiet squeeze to make sure no one else saw. Sunny, you're the goddess of victory for this shop. I want you by my side forever. So once we've saved up a little more, let's definitely go to Hawaii together. With a firm resolve to make this shop even more prosperous, I told her directly. And once things became a bit more stable, I wanted to help support other struggling shops in the shopping street, just as everyone had helped me. As I was thinking about this, Sunny flashed a beaming smile, squeezed my hand tightly, and said something that caught me off guard. If it means I get to hold hands with you like this, maybe I should start keeping my nails shorter, even in my personal life. Hearing that, I couldn't help but chuckle as I remembered her shockingly long, rainbow-colored nails from our first interview.